All right, we started. Okay, so I'm talking with my good friend James today, and I've been trying to do some fun Friday episodes. So a couple weeks ago, I did an episode with my wife talking about who would be the worst people to be stuck with during quarantine from The Office. I did an episode talking about movies, and now I'm going to do an episode talking about baseball and kind of the love-hate relationship that I have with baseball. And also my friend James loves and hates baseball, I think, as well. So James, how's it going today?
Good. So this is like the Joe Rogan podcast, right? Like we talk for a few hours and you just give me copious amounts of alcohol. Is that how this works?
Does he really serve alcohol on his podcast?
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know.
I did not know that.
It, but they
yeah,
all the time. They do pot and stuff too, man. They're like crazy.
Well, I do not follow him as well. So,
listen,
I mean,
that's not what this is, then I might be.
If we go for several hours, then probably, yeah.
Also,
but we're not in the same room, so I don't know.
We can both supply our own, I guess. I saw you did, I listened to your recent Seinfeld podcast.
Oh, that's right. I did that one too.
Yeah, and so I think you like next Seinfeld one. I want in on that. Not that I have like the racial perspective of things that y'all were talking about, but if we're talking about stupid Seinfeld stuff,
yeah,
I read to that.
It was fun talking about Seinfeld. It probably made me want to do more talking about Curb than Seinfeld, just because Larry David tackles some like relevant stuff that I think Jerry Seinfeld would never touch. But did you watch, speaking of him, did you watch his Netflix special?
I've not watched his stand-up yet. I've been deep in the weeds with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia lately.
Oh, yeah.
Which reminds me a lot of Seinfeld in some ways. I've described it as like if George and Kramer were both like just terrible misanthropes. Like, and you made a series about that because the people in the show are just total idiots and are bad people.
Got it. Yeah, I was not really that impressed. We didn't talk about it because the show didn't come out, but I didn't care for the new one that much that he put out. So, but anyways,
it's hard to keep up with his style. You know what I mean? For 30 years or whatever. Like it seems like that time might have passed, which always happens with stand-up comedians, right? Like they have their few minutes of fame and then it kind of like the world moves on.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so baseball. What is your relationship with baseball?
So I came to baseball late in life. I was 28 or 29. My wife and I found out we were pregnant and we had a daughter who had some congenital problems. So we ended up having to go to Children's Hospital in Philadelphia and ended up moving there pretty much for the summer of 2015. And at that point, like that was the first time I'd ever been to a major league game, like first time I'd ever gone to a ballpark at all, and kind of fell in love with it. We fell in love with Philly, fell in love with the Phillies, and started watching and keeping up with them even after we left there. I didn't watch a lot growing up. Like I remember my grandfather was a diehard Braves fan, so I remember whenever I'd go over to his place, we'd watch the Braves during the summer. But so that's kind of where
that's where it started for you. Yeah, so I feel like all of the South liked the Braves at some point, but that might just be my memory because I had cousins in Tennessee. They loved the Braves, and I just feel like
down here for a while.
Yeah, and then Milwaukee, the team I cheer for, they had the Milwaukee Braves for my dad's childhood. So a lot of people like the Braves. Well, and I think the Turner TBS network, they were the only team on TV sometimes. So
right.
Yeah, so Phillies fan. What is their history been like since you've been their fan?
Not great. So I think one reason, like there are a lot of reasons, right? Like my daughter was born and passed away in Philly. So like I feel like it's this like weird connection with her and my time there and everything. But another reason that I think I connect with them is they remind me so much of NC State, because NC State's had like this terrible history where these just bad things seem to happen.
Yeah.
And the Phillies feel like the same way. So the Phillies won 2 championships, right? NC State's won 2 basketball championships. I was looking through just when I was thinking about the games and stuff that we're going to talk about. I was looking at Philly's Wikipedia page, and they've got a whole section called the End Times or something like that. Like that's how bad stretches of stuff have been. But I mean, it's still fun, right? Like we got Bryce Harper, not quite 2 years ago now, so that was a pretty exciting time in our Phillies history. And now we've got Joe Girardi, which would be great if anybody was actually playing baseball. But sure. We've had some exciting off seasons, but
so Milwaukee has been, I guess, a little. I mean, the thing about the Phillies or NC State as compared to like my teams like Wisconsin and the Brewers is like those teams actually have championships.
Yeah, thanks for rubbing that in.
You guys have championships. Like,
what are you talking about? Green Bay?
I'm not talking about Green Bay though. I'm not talking about.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about Wisconsin. I'm talking about my equivalency. So Milwaukee Brewers and then the Wisconsin Badgers basketball, football. For basketball, they won in like 1941. But, NC State has 2 championships in our close to our lifetime.
That 83 was the last one. So
then the Phillies have 2 World Series titles.
Yeah.
What, 08?
09.
09.
And 86 maybe?
Okay. So I guess that other one is back a little bit further. I thought they had 2. But, I mean, the Brewers have 0. And the Badgers, I mean, people don't even want them in the football conversation. Like, it's like, oh, they're too boring.
But they have had – Wisconsin's at least had some solid basketball and football seasons the last years.
Yeah. So,
you're right.
But another 2 connections are so the Brewers made the playoffs in 2008 for the first time in my life, which is crazy to think about. The last time they went was 82, and then they go in 2008, and we are the 3rd car in the parking lot. We drove from Memphis, Tennessee. We had tickets that were standing room only, and the second car, there's 3 cars. The second car was Phillies fans that had driven there. So we saw game 1 of a wild card.
That was just for the playoffs?
Yeah, just for the playoffs in 2008. And the Brewers actually won that game, but I think the Phillies won the series.
Yeah, Phillies, I was wrong. You were right on the date. 2008 was their other.
Yeah, so that was their World Championship team. I saw that team. Yeah. So, but I did get to see the Brewers win a game in the playoffs, and that was the first game since 82. So that was pretty rocking, like, to be there and how loud it was and stuff like that. But anyways, so we wanted to do an episode about kind of like, I'm calling it like grief in baseball, but just like the love-hate relationship with baseball, and to relive 3 games that annoy us, disturb us, whatever. But then maybe within those 3 games, talk about like how they got to that point. Because there had to be some good things that happened to get to that point.
Yeah.
So I like baseball is so much to life, so much like life, because it's like 162 games. So that's 162 days out of the year that there's a game. Then let's say there's an off day either before or after that. And then if you add the playoffs or the spring training, like you're talking about almost well over 200 days that like baseball is on your mind. So that's why I'm like, it's like life. Like if you lose a game, you're like, whatever, just win tomorrow. You can have losing streaks of 20. You can have winning streaks of 20 and still win or lose the World Series. Like no other sport has that. You can't lose 20 straight games in other sports.
In basketball or something, yeah.
So I just feel like baseball is so much, it's just the daily grind. So anyways, I'll let you take over.
All right, so my history again is relatively recent. So I picked 2 games that I remember, and then another game that's kind of historic in in Phillies nation. So I'm trying to think of which one's the worst. I'll just go in the order I listed them. So 2011, I remember actually watching this game, not that I had a dog in the fight, but once you get to the playoffs of any sport, it's kind of fun to watch. So it's the 2011 NLDS versus St. Louis, a mutual hated team.
Yes.
And Cliff Lee, who, is a great pitcher, they had a 4-run lead. This is in game 2 of the NLDS. And going into the 5th, Cliff Lee gave up 4 runs to lose all of our chances of going anywhere. And I think one reason that one really hurt is because some of the components that were there in 2008 when they won, like you think that a lot of that's going to carry over, right? So you get to pretty deep in the playoffs, and then you've got this all-star pitcher who just kind of collapses and gives up all these runs. And turns out, I was looking this up, he had lost, I think, only like 3 playoff games or something. And this was his 3rd playoff loss, but it was also his 3rd one in a row that he lost. So to have him kind of collapse like that sucks.
Yeah. So that was kind of connected to mine. That was the series. So how did that series end?
St. Louis won.
Okay, so St. Louis wins, and then they play the Brewers in the next round.
Yeah, an LCS.
And so my number 3 worst loss was that same year in that next series. So they played the Brewers in a 2011. The Brewers have the best record. They have home field advantage. They also win, I believe, the first game, and they kind of had like a big comeback. And so in that series, they ended up tying the series. They ended up winning a game in St. Louis, which, like we talked about, like we kind of both get tired of St. Louis. And then they go to play in game 6, and it's back at Miller Park because it was the 2-3-2, which is such a weird thing how they do that in the playoffs. I think they got rid of that now. And so they're back at Miller Park. They just need to win at home, and they would go to the World Series. They have to win game 6 and game 7, and they just get like crushed in game 6. I think they gave up like 12 runs.
When St. Louis went on to win that year, right?
Yeah, St. Louis
was supposed to be like the
greatest
manager of all time, and
yeah. So they beat your team, my team, and then win the World Series in a very dramatic World Series too, if I remember.
Just a bad year for us in baseball, then.
But yeah, it was like the Brewers had home field advantage, the best record, and then they end up being. Too bad they didn't play the Phillies. That would have been enjoyable. I think it would have.
Because
No, I think the Brewers would have screwed it up. I really do. I think they were so inexperienced, and they probably would have found a way to lose. All right. So what's your number 2?
So number 2 is one I remember, and it was from last year. So last year was, and this goes back to like how hopeful and terrible baseball can be all at once, right? So we, in our off season, it's Gabe Kepler's 2nd year. Everybody's saying that, this is kind of a make or break year for him as manager. We got Andy McCutchen, who's a great Padres player for a long time. He's going to be our leadoff Hitler.
We'll have to edit that one.
That would have been bad. Going to be our leadoff.
Freudian slip. Oh, man.
And we had Bryce Harper, right? So our bullpen and everything wasn't looking great. Although we had a few solid pitchers like Jake Arrieta, we were still kind of figuring out where he was going to be. And some people thought Nick Pivetta was going to have a breakout year. And then we have Aaron Nola, who's kind of our best pitcher. So things were looking maybe not super great, but like promising. And sure enough, like our hitting started off great that year. Like McCutchen being our leadoff hitter was awesome, and I think he brought like a lot of just kind of veteran experience and feel to the locker room.
Yeah.
So it was exciting, and like through May and stuff, I think we were first or second in the division, and again, our pitching wasn't great, but like we were doing pretty well, just relying on how solid our hitting was. And then he has a no contact injury early June. We were playing the Padres actually, and we lost that game. He went out with a torn ACL. And I don't know if that's exactly when things started to take a turn, but like in my mind, that's kind of where last season just dropped from us. We went from this like kind of hopeful, exciting team who had a great offense to just dropping out, and we ended up fourth in division by the end of the year and went 81-81 on the year. So
yeah, and I do feel like, man, it's just crazy. Like I think going in, it's really hard to predict. What was their prediction going in for that team?
So they were all over the place, depending on who you looked at. Like they had us finishing second in the division, third in the division, fourth in the division, and it's because like we're in a division with the Nationals, right? Which is another terrible memory, right? Like I've come in and I hate the Nationals, and they won the World Series last year. So they were pretty much picked to finish first. But then the Braves, like people thought that they were really good, so they could be second. But then our hitting looked great, so maybe we're second, Braves are third, and then just kind of went all over. The Mets are always a mess, like, but people think sometimes
they always are.
Think that they're gonna like, I don't know, come figure something out or something. I don't know. And then people forget the Marlins even exist. So
yeah, and that's the Marlins, another team that what 2 or 3 World Series titles.
Yeah, and
they're terrible. Like it's just that's gotta be so frustrating to have your team be bad for like 20 years.
Would you rather the Brewers have won like 2 or 3 World Series in your lifetime, but be atrocious the other like 30 years of your life?
I don't think so.
So you'd rather them be kind of the way they are now?
Yeah, I mean, I know I feel like the Packers are a pretty good example of this. So it's like they win the Super Bowl in 96 and they win the Super Bowl in 2011. So they still have like a 30-year gap and a 15-year gap between Super Bowls. I got to be alive for 2 of them, but that's really like about as good as you can have it. Like they're relevant for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. They win 1. Like that's not bad. Like I would take that over like, wow. I mean, there's just so many. The next thing I thought of was like the Marlins have that weird thing, but then it's like there's so many baseball teams, and I think the Brewers are one of them that it's like, I mean, them making the playoffs 3 out of 20 years is like a huge success.
Yeah.
So
I think I'd rather a team be relevant too, because then you've at least got the hope, right? Whereas seasons, it's just like, meh.
Like I think you see this a lot in basketball, where there's just like the Nets have no chance, and like that's it. So yeah, I would like to have be relevant for 10 years, then 9 of those be irrelevant. So all right, so we have a connection again because mine is last year against the Nationals wild card, the National League wild card game. The Brewers have a huge lead. They're up, I think 3-0, and then they're up 3-1 going into the bottom of the 8th. They bring in Josh Hader, who's like the best closer, relief pitcher, has been the best for a couple of years now. He'll probably go to the Yankees next year because that's just the way baseball works. So right now
we're the Dodgers at this point, right?
Yeah, or the Dodgers or Boston, and that'll be it. So the Brewers are up by 3 runs, and then we think we're gonna beat the Nationals. All you have to do is like not give up 3 runs, and they couldn't do it. So they gave up 3 runs, and it goes into extra innings, and then. Or no, I guess they gave up 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th. So it goes to the 9th, and the game's they're down. I can't. Now I need to look it up. Okay, so they're down 1 going into the 9th. So they needed to give up 2 runs to keep it a tie, and of course they give up 3, and then there's an error by like a rookie outfielder who's like 20 that, has never played in a huge game like this in his life and just kind of makes a really bad play. Kind of like the famous Buckner play for Boston where the ball just kind of goes under his glove.
Yeah.
And that's it. So that's what happens to this really, really young kid in a wild card game where if you lose, you go home. And so they lose by 1 run, and then the Nationals go on to win the World Series. So yeah, I'm really like, and the Nationals again, like haven't really been around. I feel like they have very much like a bandwagon fan base.
Yeah, they are tricky because they're so new. But what I'm getting from this is it's y'all's fault that
Yeah,
the Nationals won last year.
I think so. Like I'm just like they weren't that good. Like we had them up 3-4 runs in the bottom of the 8th, and I mean I guess their regular season record was decent, but the Brewers played them. I'm just looking at this. They played them 6 times in the regular season, and they beat them 4 out of those 6 times. But yeah, just kind of like a crazy ending to that game. And anytime it comes down to like one play, it's just crushing. So that one is specific to like this play. Like it wasn't like a game where, they're a game away from going to the World Series, but still like just such a crappy way to end the season. And I always listen to the radio. And so I was listening to Bob Uecker, and he was just like, yeah, this one's going to sting for a while. And you feel bad for that kid. I think he already got cut, and he's on another team now. But, yeah, Trent Grisham. And so he's pretty young. But I think he'll still maybe be relevant. I think he was pretty good. Like, I kind of wanted them to keep him. But, yeah, that was it. So, yeah, last year again. Same. It's weird that they're so connected so far, but
I'd be shocked if there's any connection to my last one, but we'll see. So
right.
Again, came into baseball fandom as an adult, right? But I listen to a lot of Phillies podcasts, and one that I listen to, I love. It's called High Hopes. It's 2 guys out of Philly, but I love it because they're very typical fans, right? Like anytime anything good happens or they get a good acquisition, they're like, we're relevant, we're going to be great. And then anytime anything moderately bad happens, they're like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. But they know all Phillies history, and they talk about it all the time. And so this game came up on that podcast, and I've heard about it several times since then. But it's the 1993 Game 6 in the World Series, and it's like probably the worst thing that's ever happened to the Phillies. And I retroactively hurt for them just thinking about how close they were and for this to happen. So it's Game 6 of the World Series against the Blue Jays. They're playing in Toronto. The Blue Jays won the World Series in '92. So there was this not Cinderella season, but this kind of like amazing thing, right? That the Blue Jays are going to go back to back. So they're in Toronto. Phillies are down in the series 2-3. They had a 1-run lead going into the 9th. So if they win this, they're pushing it to a Game 7, which would have been, whatever. So the manager at the time, his name was Jim Fregosi. He put in our closer, whose name is Mitch Williams, and apparently there was a lot of criticism about the choice at the time because this guy had pitched a ton of games throughout the playoffs, and they thought he was going to be too tired. So, so he gets on. He walks a guy. The guy gets on base. Another hit. So now they've got 2 guys on base. And again, this is the 9th inning. And Jay Carter comes up, hits a home run, drives all the runs in. It's a walk-off home run to win the World Series and crush the Phillies' hope. So I think like of all the ways you could lose a game like that having the lead going into the 9th and then losing on a walk-off in the World Series has got to be one of the worst ways.
That's the worst. Is that who hits that? Is that Joe Carter?
Jay Carter, yeah.
Jay Carter, okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's like a really, really famous game.
Yeah.
Because how many times has that happened? It can't be very many that somebody wins a walk-off World Series. I mean, I can't think of any. So
his name is Joe Carter. You're right, not Jay Carter.
I feel like that one they show on ESPN all the time. At least that clip of him after he hits it.
So, like, to have that come up so much now as a Phillies fan, it's like I shouldn't have to relive the horrors of this that happened 27 years ago, but
right.
Won't shut up about it.
Well, at least you have the reverse, which is the clip of NC State
that is true.
Winning. I mean, that clip is – I knew that clip from a kid, and then I was watching the 30 for 30 about NC State. This is before I moved here, before I had any connection. And I was like, oh, that's that clip. I was like, now I know what it is. Like, and I don't know the guy that shot the ball, but I think it's probably in that documentary. He's like, oh, that was meant to be a pass.
Sidney Lowe, yeah.
Yeah. He seems like a really fun person to hang out with.
He coached NC State for several years.
Was he good?
No.
Yeah.
That's why it's not
I wouldn't think he would be a good coach.
I think he got into some kind of trouble with like tax evasion or something.
Oh no.
I don't know.
Well, he's great. He's great in that documentary. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. His house is like, or when he was living there, it was like a half mile from my in-laws' house.
Oh wow.
They're in the same neighborhood.
Well, he also has a great line where he's like, he guarded Michael Jordan in the ACC tournament. He's like, I got that guy. That guy's no good. Like. Because he was a senior, Jordan was a sophomore. So yeah, at least there's that clip. Yeah, so mine is no connection. Mine is 2018. So man, I remember this one pretty good. I mean, last year I remember because it sucked, but last year it wasn't like I didn't think they were even going to make the playoffs. So that it was fun to be in the playoffs. But 2 years ago. We had just moved in to our current house, and the Brewers were having this incredible year. They were going to have the MVP. They were going to have great pitching. Like Hader was on the team, who was pitching outstanding. And, Christian Yelich was unbelievable, like just hitting everything out of the park, it seemed like. And so they had tons of wins. They end up playing a tiebreaker game 163 against the Cubs. And then whoever wins that game is also going to be the number one seed in the playoffs. And I was cutting my yard because I remember I really needed to get the yard cut for some reason. And listening to the game, running into the house. Anyways, the Brewers win that game in like dramatic fashion. Then they go and play the Rockies, and they sweep the Rockies in the playoffs. And then they're going to play the Dodgers, and they have home field advantage. I think the best team and the best record and home field. And I'm like, okay, they didn't do it in 2011 when they had home field, but now we don't have to play the stupid Cardinals, who I just feel like it's probably like the Bears Packers. Like I'm pretty sure Chicago just never thinks they're going to win.
Cardinals.
So they didn't have to play the stupid Cardinals, but the Dodgers were very good. Yasiel Puig was kind of one of their big guys. So game 7 in Milwaukee, series tied 3-3. The first inning, Christian Yelich hits a home run, and I'm just like going insane. Like it's 1-0, and I'm like, they're going to go to the World Series. Like this is like never going to happen again. Like I had Scarlett wearing Brewers stuff all day, and I was just like insane. She was like, I don't know what's going on, but okay. And that was it. Like they score 1 run, they go up 1-0. The game is 1-0 for like, I want to say 5 or 6 innings. I can look at it. The game is, okay, I remembered it wrong. So it was 1-0, but then it's like 2-1 for 5 innings. And then Yasiel Puig hits a 3-run home run in the 6th, and that's basically it. There's no hits or no runs for the last 3 innings, I think. And they lose 5-1 at home. And you're just like, man, I don't think they're not going to get this close in a while. So that's just to have the best team and not be there. I think that's the frustrating thing.
You mentioned the Dodgers. Did you see the clip of Joe Kelly practicing pitching?
Uh-uh.
There's this, I don't know if you've seen, but like there's all these videos of pitchers practicing pitching and stuff while they're, in
No, I haven't seen that.
whatever mansion they're in, but he's got a net set up in front of his house and he just misses the net and shatters the window behind it. Which is kind of amazing if you think about, because the net's got to be like 7 feet wide or something like that, and you're a professional major league pitcher.
Yeah,
you would think that, but no, that's pretty great.
Yeah, the Dodgers, I would say, have kind of become this team that's kind of more hated, but the Dodgers could do their own podcast because they still don't have a World Series title, and
That's true.
They've had the best team, I feel like the last 10 years.
That's true.
At least 4 or 5 years. So, but yeah, there's been some fun games where it's cool to see your team win. And I don't know, I would think the Phillies are going to be good with Harper and the new manager for a little bit here.
We got to get our pitching straight, man. It's not great, and that wasn't anything we handled in the off season. And we got Didi Gregorius, so our infield is probably going to be really solid. But the pitching, we've got to figure that part out. And with McCutchen back, our outfield should be okay too. But
yeah,
it's kind of.
But I don't think the Nationals are. I think they're kind of a fluke, but maybe not.
I don't know.
And then the Braves, I guess, will be good. So
yeah. So we were talking a little bit before this, right? About what appeals to you with baseball as a guy in the 30s, when most people are most guys our age don't like baseball.
Right. Mm-mm.
And I don't know. I guess I do know why, but
it's because it's too much like real life. People don't want that. They don't want to watch. They don't want to follow something for 200 days.
Yeah.
We're very hey, give me a 3-month season, or actually look at college basketball. It's basically 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You just have to be a serious fan for 3 weeks and that's it. And soccer is really popular. I don't know as much about the Premier League, but I think, that's soccer's getting bigger and bigger. But I don't know who people follow necessarily that are our age, but I think that takes a lot of people away. And then the NFL is just huge. So
yeah, I just don't. Again, I think 10 or 15 years ago, I was the type of guy that I was well, baseball's boring.
Okay.
But I think the strategy of it's harder to grasp. Football, you can at least pretty obviously see different routes that are run, right, or different strategies are coming up with it, or as they go forward on 4th down or whatever. Baseball, it's kind of oh, he threw another pitch. Oh, he threw another pitch. He threw another pitch. And unless you start to get into that a little bit and start to see exactly what they're doing, it's not quite as impressive as you think it is.
Well, I guess it's people can't see how difficult it is to hit a curveball, how difficult it is to field something. And the bigger, stronger person doesn't always win in baseball. Sometimes it's the smarter person. And maybe we don't like that, with our sports. I was thinking of, I know his name is completely connected now to the Astros and the cheating scandal, but the guy who hits all these home runs, Altuve, he's small.
Yeah.
And he's one of the most important players on their team, but he's not a big person.
Well, when you cheat, you can get a lot more done.
Man, the Astros are so glad that the coronavirus happened, because nobody's going to care about their cheating, I don't think.
I agree. And it's funny because this was the biggest off season for baseball in a while.
Yeah.
In a negative way, but at least people were paying attention and talking about it,
Yeah, it was the strike in '94. It's probably maybe the Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa season. People liked that one a lot, but even that one, they're all about scandals. So
yeah, now they are. I remember watching the Sammy Sosa Mark McGwire thing, and again, I didn't grow up with baseball, but I really enjoyed watching that kind of competition.
Yeah,
hasn't been anything close to that. Well, I mean, aside from like Ryan Braun being a punk and cheating too, or something.
Well, the thing about Braun is like he went on air and is like, I would never. I'm insulted that you would think I was lying, and then like you find out like, oh, he was lying. So I think to me that's what made him look like such a dummy, is because it's like he like went out and was like, I'm just such a good human. I would never. And he even was like, the one thing that I don't know if you, I doubt you know this, but even like Aaron Rodgers like defended Ryan Braun.
I remember that. Yeah.
And so yeah, so as far as Wisconsin, it's like the two biggest people, and they had a restaurant together in Milwaukee. But
oh, I did not know that.
after that, yeah, they no longer work together. So Rodgers was pretty ticked, I think. So, and he's probably ticked again too because they drafted a quarterback. So
yeah.
So his time in Green Bay is probably going to be, I don't know. I've been telling Dom maybe he'll go to the Panthers. So
that'd be great. But
awesome.
I know that going back to your original point, like I do think there's something about the longevity of baseball, both in the season, but even in the game, right? Like,
oh yeah,
time-wise, the game isn't much long. Like you watch football games, you think about how much time you spend watching a professional football game. Like you're there for 4 hours, you know,
right?
You're committing to it. And baseball sometimes is shorter than that, but like I think that sitting down and watching like just the game kind of carry out in its own pace is not always exciting to people.
Well, there's no clock.
Yeah.
And I think people don't like that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, when is this going to be over?
Yeah, you could.
And that's like the painful thing. It's like, man, if your pitcher is really doing bad, you can give up like 9 runs, you know? And if you're hitting really good, you can score like 9. And it's so it's like that anticipation. Like even if you're down 4-1 or something, like it's like, hey, something could happen. Like the Brewers had some great games against the Cardinals in the past 2 seasons where they were down by like 4 or 5 runs and ended up winning the game. So those are the stuff that keeps me going. Or maybe that's a good question to kind of like, what keeps you going? What keeps you coming back even after?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think the Phillies again hold like a very special place in my heart for
absolutely.
a lot of reasons. But I think too, like it's very much a team that I simultaneously have that really emotional connection with them, and I also like chose them. Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like I grew up with my dad who was a diehard Phillies fan or something and just kind of came into it. Not that that's an invalid way to appreciate a team, but like I feel like I've like committed to them almost, you know what I mean, as an adult, which is a little different than like, you know, NC State where I went to college, like, and you get caught up in the emotion and you love them and stuff like that. But I think too, there's something about it that just, the more I've watched it, the more it just like screams summer to me. Like, you know, like sitting down and watching a game, and one of the things I enjoy about it, I think, is that like you can sit there and have a couple beers and just let it play out and watch it and enjoy it and like talk with a friend while you're watching it and stuff. And it's not, I don't know, it's like simultaneously relaxing and exciting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so.
In a way that is different than basketball or football or hockey or whatever.
You know, I think one of the things maybe me and you both like about it is like it's almost like a quiet meditation. You know, like it's so like you're looking at green grass, you're looking at like this beautiful diamond, especially the professional stadiums.
Yeah.
Like it's like, man, my yard will never look like that. You know, I don't know. Like there's something amazing about just it's so like perfect. Every inning is like 0-0. And the field, you know, I don't know. There's something about like, even like maybe how it looks. And I do think like there is maybe, I guess it depends, but there's almost like a family feel to baseball still.
Yeah.
I went to an NFL game with my dad this past season, and I was like, man, I could never bring my kid to this. Like there's no way. Like they would have to be like teenagers.
Yes.
Whereas baseball, I mean, anything can happen, but it's like I don't feel that with baseball. So
You're right. Yeah, it's got a great feel to it, I think. Similar to what like a real like if you go to a football game on like a really beautiful fall day, like there's nothing
Hmm.
better than that, you know what I mean? But baseball feels like that for an extended period, I think. Uh,
Yeah.
so what
Yes, summer's cool too. I like the idea of summer because, like, I mean, I know you are a teacher, and so like, but that's also like the family appeal to it. Like, I don't have like summers off, but it's like, my wife at times have had summers off, so
yeah.
at least kids are off school. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
So what you think they're gonna play baseball this year?
Yeah, that was a good. So I thought I heard I listened to ESPN radio quite a bit, and I want to say they were talking about like July, maybe.
So yeah, so apparently the owners put forth July as a date, but I think as of like yesterday, I think the players union turned that down
Oh, jeez.
because of the revenue piece. So this they were talking about. I guess the proposal had the owners and the players splitting revenue costs for the year, whereas before the players were under the impression that they would get like a prorated salary. But the owners are upset because if they do a prorated salary, but then they lose revenue, then they're going to end up losing money on the year. So it's
Wow.
all about.
Ew.
But they
That's
said
a
like
mess.
fan attendance accounts for something like 40% or something of their total revenue, and if they play game,
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
and if they play games with a bunch of empty stadiums, then like, what are you going to do? You know?
Well, I one thing I heard was you charge people to watch it at home.
Yeah, well, but again, like you do that for a lot of cases anyway, right? Like I have to pay to watch the Phillies here,
Yeah,
but
but
I
you do.
guess
I guess you do it per game. I don't
yeah,
know.
and I guess if you're in Philly, like they've got Century Link, and maybe you'd have to charge. I don't know how they would do that.
It's gonna. I don't know. I mean, now that you've said that, the revenue thing is not as because I think baseball. I didn't know is 40%, but some of the other sports I would think don't need the fan attendance as much. But
Yeah.
I thought baseball needed it a lot. But I could be wrong about all that because if that's the number for baseball, then that means it's probably higher for basketball and football than I thought.
When you think about like how big like NFL contracts are, right, for CBS,
Right.
at football and all that stuff, or how much like God the Super Bowl brings in,
Mm-hmm.
they've got these huge TV contracts that like the only thing I can think of that's comparable to baseball is like you were saying with the Braves back in the day. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
only like big contract type thing I can think of.
Yeah. There's not. It's all regional
Yeah,
stuff, and so they probably. Yeah. Man, that does not make me feel optimistic.
I know it's not great.
So I don't know
What do
what's
you,
going to happen with sports. I mean, I was talking to somebody yesterday that thought the NFL was going to start on time, and I was like, "There's no way." Like,
I mean, with the way things are, who knows? Yeah. So we're both National League guys. So they're one of the proposals was that they'd have the DH and NL and AL
mhm.
this year, because like I guess the way that they're proposing the games be played, it would be more regional than league uh, divisions.
Right.
How do you feel about the DH being in the National League?
I mean, I'm fine with it. I think that it would give some people. Um, we've talked about him already, but it would keep somebody like Braun around if he doesn't have to be on the field. Um, and it's probably I would think that eventually. I'm actually surprised it just hasn't gone to DH everywhere.
No, it ruins the purity of things.
Well, I know that it does, but I just feel like that's just the direction. Like I want people to like baseball. I want it to be more popular than it is.
That is
I
true.
don't know if this. I don't think. I think it's already passed and it doesn't matter. But I guess I'm saying maybe there would be a chance to have a couple more hitters in there, but
So by the time that our sons are grown, do you think? Because you mentioned like bringing fans in, do you think that
yeah.
baseball's still going to be relevant by the time
I
they're?
don't is I mean, it's I guess it's the thing that keeps it relevant is how many games there are. Like I know people want to shorten the season, but to me it's like that it keeps it in the news because there's so many games. So I don't know. I mean, I think it will be less and less popular, but it's still, I think it's still gonna be there. I'll be curious, like if there's like another big sport that actually, like, if hockey, I think what I'm saying is like basketball and football are like they're gonna be there no matter what.
Yeah.
But if like soccer, hockey, or baseball, or UFC even, if one of those sports really becomes like this is the number 3 sport, then maybe baseball. But I just feel like I don't know, it's just ingrained in America and family, and I think it will stay around. It will just be less and less and less. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I hope so.
That's hard to figure out. Like, it is funny. You're just like, what about our sons? And I'm like, oh crap, that's true.
Right?
Like it's 10. What will it be like in 10 years? About the same, I guess. It'll take it a long time to absolutely, like, completely change, I think.
I mean, I know every time like they talk on ESPN or something about this topic of whether or not baseball is going to be around, like, the MLB commissioners and come out and say like, hey, everything's great, like we're in a good financial place and all this sort of stuff. But then we get to a situation like this and they're panicking over revenue because the parks can't be open.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's really where so much of their revenue is coming from, like, are they going to have attendance like that in 10 years, 15 years? And I don't know.
I mean, the other good thing about baseball is the tickets are not as expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, taking 4 people to the NFL game is pretty unrealistic for most of us.
Yeah.
But you can take 4. So I think it'll still hang around. Like, I don't know if this makes sense because I'm kind of like talking both sides of my mouth, but like I kind of like that it's not super popular sometimes too. Because like if I wear a Packers hat around Raleigh or something, or if I'm at a bar in Chicago, like somebody will probably say like, Packers suck or whatever. But like I could wear a Brewers hat, people don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that. So.
I think you're an alcoholic or something.
Oh man. Well, this is fun. I don't know. I don't think we've given any hope to any baseball fans out there.
Probably not.
That's fine.
Probably not.
It's not for you anyways.
That's true. Well, I look forward to being able to have a beer and watch a game with you, hopefully at some point this summer.
Oh man. Yeah, that would be good. Cool. Man, that sucks. Players Union. I mean, I don't blame them though. I'm sure they
got to get their money somehow.
Yeah, it makes sense. Man, sports are never coming back. It's just like it's gonna be a long time.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope baseball can figure something out. My wife said she would watch baseball since there was nothing else to watch, which I think speaks volumes.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like, if baseball could get their act together, this might actually be a opportunity, like a chance for them to like do something cool. But
I mean, if people are really like stuck at home with nothing to do, although everything's starting to open back up, but I thought the same thing. Like
even if they can do I heard the NBA commissioner talking about like this like big charity event game where you bring like celebrities and some players, and you put it on ESPN. That would be so cool.
They've talked about doing that with golf. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, is that happening with Tom Brady?
Yeah, I think so. May 24th. So,
what is it going to be on?
I think it's TNT, I think was what I had heard.
Okay.
But it's Peyton Manning and Tiger Woods versus Tom Brady and Phil Mickelson.
Did you watch the Tiger versus Phil thing a couple of Thanksgivings ago?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I was like, I was glued to the TV. It was incredible.
I love golf, and I think golf and baseball have similar things, right? In that it's obviously slower paced. You want to talk about longevity. Like if you watch the Masters on a Saturday, you could watch it from like 9 a.m. to 8 p.m.,
Yeah.
But
that is cool that I'm surprised it's only TNT though. I mean, it's big enough. It's fine.
Like I said,
because it's golf, it's probably, I mean, I'm sure the ratings will be huge because there's nothing else on, but that is a tough sport for people to watch.
And that I don't get either. Like it's such a similar things we were talking about. Like it's just beautiful and like gorgeous settings. And I think too though, what we're talking about, like you don't realize how hard it is to hit a curveball. Like you don't understand how hard it is to hit a golf ball unless you've tried to do it right. So when these guys hit these incredible shots, people are like, oh, he just swings the club at it or whatever, and you don't